Uh, you mentioned some of the things to support the greater opportunity and equality, specifically citing unions, NLRB, education, things like that, and affirmative action. But can you explain why then in the United States today do we still have this huge gap between the extremely wealthy and then the moderately wealthy? And it seems to be growing. Can you explain that and explain if there's things that can and should be done by the government?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, well, America is a very diverse nation, and we do have many immigrants coming in from different countries. And we can see that with this, the immigrants usually come in and end up being in usually the lower percentile of people by income, which is the reason why they initially came over here. And with this, we see that it provides them with social mobility if they have opportunity. And a lot of times there are certain jobs that American citizens do not want to take, but the people that come in from other countries happily take up, which provides them with the opportunity, and it provides us with the benefits of having these jobs done.
Additionally, in Alexis de Tocqueville's time in the 1830s, he noted that most Americans, basically their wealth was up to chance. We see that the elimination of primogeniture, which basically gave the estate to the firstborn, were eliminated in that time. So this basically allowed for one generation to be wealthy, or it could be vice versa. So this whole up to chance idea has kind of decreased, which leads to the New York Times study, which revealed that people in the lowest income quartile, it takes 4 generations for them to actually move up to the middle class. So because of these statistics, we can see that it is much harder for the lower class to move up out of its lower class status.
One reason why this chance is gone now is because many times a lower income family does not get to decide what school they end up going to, and as we know, education is now the vehicle to achieve social mobility. And if they are stuck in a low-income community, they don't have many opportunities that other communities would have.
De Tocqueville predicted that this change would occur when, in the second volume of his book, Democracy in America. In his 20th chapter, he talks about how the rise of industry will lead to the rise of aristocracy and the rise of a new class system, and repeats Adam Smith's idea of the idea that an industrial society will create this inequality of conditions. Because what happens when you create an industrial society, you create a division of labor. The division of labor will indoctrinate each person to only be able to do one specific thing, while the majority parties involved, while the big corporations involved, will be able to learn from all of these things, and they'll be able to create a more and more distant gap between the working people as well as the managerial corporations.
I would like to further my colleague Stacy's point when she said that education is important. Education, according to Horace Mann, is the great equalizer. So right now, for instance, in East Chicago, which is not a high-income city, right now someone from East Chicago is going to Harvard on almost a full ride. And this is also because not only academically he obviously excelled, but also we have organizations such as FAFSA, which can give these students money, and it does help to try and decrease the gap in between these two quintiles.
And one last point, additionally, besides affirmative action based on race, there has been talk considering economic affirmative action, which would help to bring truth to this statement, education is a great equalizer, by giving these families that are in the lower income quintiles, it would give them the chance as well as the wealthier students.
So just to follow up, to what end should government be involved in ensuring that those opportunities are there and exist for Americans?
Well,
Go ahead.
Okay, well, de Tocqueville stated that the most important level of government in his society was the level of local government, because people can directly see the effects of their local government, and they see the direct effects of their participation in the local government. When we see this trickle-down economics, many Americans aren't able to see how this money trickles down towards them. But if you have the local governments being the strongest government, if you have the local government being the one that everyone participates in, then yes, they're going to be able to see directly the effects of their actions, the effects of who they vote in and why they voted them in.
We can see the introduction of the healthcare system, which was dates all the way back to the Truman presidency, as kind of this perfect example of how far the government should actually provide for its citizens. And although it seems like a good idea to most Americans, we can see that there were a variety of groups that were protesting this legislation, that would protest the opportunities that the government would give to them. So de Tocqueville's observation that people still work together to kind of limit what the government can do or limits the opportunities that the government can is still true today as it was in the 1830s.
To further my colleague Santash's point, which when he states that the states are the closest to the people, we can see that the federal government is working with the states in order to expand opportunity in terms of education. Just today, this morning in the Wall Street Journal, it was revealed that Indiana is one of the states that wants a share of the $600 million in the Race to the Top program, which will establish merit pay for teachers. And through this we can see that the federal government will grant the state of Indiana the money to do this so long as they better their educational system.
We also see the role of government as it has been in the past. The role of our government isn't to ensure equality of conditions, but rather equality of opportunity. Similar to the affirmative action programs we dealt with earlier, the point of the affirmative action programs is to ensure that everyone has equal opportunity to the education, not so that everyone has equal conditions to be in the best college.
I'd like to take you back to the Constitution and ask the question, are there any provisions of the Constitution, are there landmark legislation or critical Supreme Court decisions that have affected equality of opportunity?
Well, as we stated, we have many affirmative action Supreme Court cases, such as California v. Bakke, and we have the Michigan State cases that have instituted affirmative action, legalized affirmative action cases in the United States.
Additionally, in the 1960s, we saw landmark legislation, both being the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and landmark Supreme Court cases, that being Brown v. Board of Education, that basically set the tone that would desegregate America in the coming years.